Violent protests continue in Nicaragua as students seize the engineering university in Managua.
84 people have died and 860 people have been wounded since the protests began in mid-April,
demanding President Daniel Ortega's resignation, and were met by riot police. There were several reported injuries.
Traits of protesters
I am here because I'm informed anti-agreement that my grandchild is going to receive 5% more already anemic pensions after having worked for 45 years.
Spread across Nicaragua. Demonstrators fought with pro-government groups. This week, the State Department ordered all non-essential employees and diplomats' families to leave the country. The State Department also advises all Americans planning to travel to Nicaragua reconsider going.
None of us really understood the gravity of what was about to happen when we arrived in Nicaragua April 19th. We'd been taking a yearly trip for the purpose of interviewing my brother and others for a different capstone project, and Nicaragua is like a second home to me and my family. But what we didn't know is that the day before we arrived, President Daniel Ortega announced a modest pension reform that raised taxes between 1 and 4 percentage points and cut benefits by 5%. Now, to many, that may not seem incredibly significant, at least not enough to begin an entire revolution. But that's not the whole story. Ortega has spent more than a decade dismantling Nicaragua's democracy through the corruption of the Sandinista party. Ortega has rigged elections for the past 10 years, and his family and close friends control every seat in power, with his own wife as vice president. But why was this pension reform the final straw? It's because it affects everyone, not just the elderly or the working, but the college students who are beginning to understand that they themselves will get cheated out of the money that they were promised when they retire too. And so, from the day that we arrived in Nicaragua, the revolution began.
Lo que es el gobierno.
It's like, can I say like a
It's Domino's.
car? Yeah, Domino's or a car
A house of cards.
A house of cards.
Yes. Right.
We were never really much concerned about our own safety there, as much as the kids and our friends that we know and love. Not long after we left, an orphanage a couple hours from the one that we go to was threatened to be attacked by raiders who were desperate for food and water and supplies. By the third day, the supermarkets and clothing stores were all empty and destroyed. Ortega had shut off the gas, and despite what was going on, we kept having to show up to play with these kids who were unbeknown to the horrors of what was happening just minutes away.
Yo soy power, yo tengo power.
Power. Strong.
Strong.
Mover.
While Nicaragua is one of the poorest and most endangered countries in Central America right now, the people are what make it a place that I will willingly go back to tomorrow if I could. Then I talked to Guillermo, our driver, and asked what he had witnessed just outside his house during all of the protests, protecting his wife and kids.
Many policemen, and also not only policemen, also the other people that is pro the government, they attack them. So they trying to take out the people. They don't care if they kill somebody. That was horrible. They burn like motorcycles. They cut down the tree.
Yeah.
So
those big trees were burned.
Yes. Later I see a security guard picking on something. Say, what are you doing? I'm collecting marbles. Marbles? Why? Because what did the policeman used it yesterday to shoot the people?
The marbles.
Yes. And also those are bombs too.
Like real bombs?
Yes.
I saw that they had tear gas too. Were they using like the gas?
That's what the police use it. These are the students
This
use
is
it.
just the students? Yeah.
Yes. To make noise, explode.
What are the students' weapons?
This water they don't use, they don't have.
They don't have any weapons?
With no weapons and nothing to protect themselves, the students at the colleges were fighting for their lives and their liberation. And so we went to the transition home, a place where kids go after the orphanage when they get too old and are young adults. We were able to get a little closer to the situation, talking with the college students, more specifically Arlene, a girl who has friends and family protesting for their lives. She explained that there had been hundreds of kids missing and not even reported dead, and that every single day, these students and her friends were dying.
I used to live in an orphanage. I was living there for 10 years, but then we were too old to live there, so they decided to move to a new program that is here. I don't know if you know, but Sandino was a guy who fight for freedom in the country. And when they called for peace with the president, he betrayed him. He betrayed Sandino, and then he killed him. But Ortega, he changed the story, the history from Nicaragua. He changed everything, but the old people, when I go to my home and my grandmother, she said, that's not true. The people from the cities, they don't know the real truth. Only the old people, they know what really happened. When the journalists go and interview these people, they don't know how to answer what they are really doing, because they are just killing people. And here the police is not anymore the police, because the real police, they are arrested because they didn't want to participate. They didn't want to participate. So the people took the prisoners and they give them uniforms like of the police, and now they're saying that they are the police, but it's not true. They are just killing with the uniforms of the police. It is really hard because all the students, they are the hospitals that are public.
The public ones.
Yeah, they were told that they cannot help the people that are doing the protests. They cannot help the students.
Right.
They are asking for peace, but even when they do that, the police come and they how to say, the guns.
They shoot. Yeah,
They shoot with
They
guns.
shoot people whose hands are up.
Yeah.
We had been face to face with these protests and riot police, but the crazy thing was that the rest of the world didn't even know it yet. International media never really began reporting on it until we left. This is all mostly because Ortega took control of all of the independent news organizations, making him more like Orwell than Ortega. It was crazy to see how much goes on around the world that we aren't even aware of back home.
There are young people that all this time Daniel was giving them houses, animals,
money.
Yeah, they were like, he was all this time, he was buying all these people, so for moments like that, they would be fighting for him. We don't want to feel alone. We want help. It's really hard because they're saying, please look what they're doing. They're killing us and they're crying. And yesterday in a chapel, many students were,
Inside the chapel?
Yeah, because the people are outside were like waiting for them to kill, and so they wrote the name in their hand. They wrote their telephone number. They say, my name is, I don't know, and they say they are about to kill us. Please help us. And it's really hard.
And they won't let medical people in to help.
And so then I got the chance to briefly talk with my brother Lujan about his life in the transition home and the revolution. We've known Lujan for about 11 years when my dad first came in 2007.
After school, I came to the house, I made homework. That's true, nobody made homework. I tried to study a little. That's a big lie. And that's pues just if I have to do something else in the house.
As you can tell, he really is never that serious. You always see a smile on this kid's face, but even then the protests scared him. He was the oldest in the transition home, which meant that he was in charge of taking care of all the younger kids in case government people came knocking on their door. He told us that every night it was scary to go to sleep because they didn't know if someone was going to try to break in to loot their house or hurt them because they themselves are college students.
I guess I agree, mami.
Why do we get one number?
¡Hay una partida arriba! ¿A dónde? Ahí.
Story about Lujan. When I was here, I was a boy, crazy boy, and I was crazy. Here we have Cecilia. Cecilia was one of my teachers from the orphanage. She was take care of me when I was little, when I was mocoso, and she loved me. I love her.
Lujan is seen as an older brother and role model to most of the kids, and so I've always known him as the guy who plays with them and protects them. But when he told us that one of the kids at his own college was shot and killed, our realization of how serious these protests were finally sunk in.
Hi, my name is Lujan.
What do you think about it?
Well, this is a bad thing for all Nicaraguans because they are they are dying and nobody can help, and well,
Smile.
Yeah.
Do you have friends that are protesting?
Yes, I have a lot of friends. I have my friends from the college, and they are fighting, and some of them are in the house, scaring, feeling fear, and trying to be safe.
Just outside our hotel room, as you saw earlier, we witnessed the revolution face to face and watched as the only news channels on our TV were government-owned ones. We were lucky to make it out when we did, because as soon as we landed in Atlanta, we got a text from our friends back in Nicaragua saying that the roads had been completely blocked to the airport. As scary as this experience was, it is still not over for Nicaragua, as new deaths are announced every single day. I wanted to make this instead of my original documentary to share their voice with the rest of the world about what is truly going on. These articles were released just yesterday, as of June 10th, and the tragedies will continue until Ortega is out of power. I encourage all of you to keep an eye on the news and send your thoughts and prayers to the people of Nicaragua. Because while they are desperate for help and they are dying, the world just watches.